This is a quick start guide for the Excel Skills monthly payroll template. Our monthly payroll template is a comprehensive, flexible solution which can be used to calculate the payroll amounts for employees that are paid on a monthly basis. Let's look at the setup sheet. Okay, so on the setup sheet, you enter business details at the top of the sheet. You select a tax period end and you enter a tax year. This determines your current and prior periods and the template starlight. These are all formulas. You also set a payslip number, starting number, which is included on the payroll sheet. The next section covers the tax tables. So the default tax tables have 7 tax brackets. If you need less tax brackets, you just delete the row. And the cells with light blue column headings contain formulas, and it's only the yellow cells which require user input. As you can see, there are 2 tax tables, so we accommodate 2 different tax tables which can be linked to each employee. Okay, the next section is the income tax rebates. You can set different income tax rebates here, and the rebate amounts are calculated or deducted after the tax has been calculated. The next section is the medical tax credit. So what we've set here is an amount per depeg. If medical tax credits are not applicable to your business, you can just enter 0 values. The next section is the earnings list. Okay, an earnings code needs to be created for every type of earning that you include. The default is we have 10 earning codes with alphabetical codes in column A. So we recommend sticking to these alphabetical codes. Here you enter a description in column B, a short name in column E, which is used on the other sheets to refer to that earning. A taxable percentage, the last column is for the basis. You can select monthly, quarterly, or annual. And the earning amounts are basically entered on the payroll sheet. We'll get to that. So salary deductions, you enter a unique code in column A, a description in column B, you set the rate in column E, and specify a basis in column F. You can have either a gross basis, which means that the rate would be a percentage. You can have a fixed basis where you enter actually a fixed amount. And you can also link the deduction calculation to a specific earnings code where you would just say it's basic pay. You would include A here for the basic salary code. Okay, the next column is for fringe inclusion. So if your fringe benefits need to be included in your deduction calculation, you would have the option of setting the full value, the taxable value, or none to exclude fringe benefits from the calculation. Earning inclusions can also be set by just to taxable amounts or the full value. If you set the basis to gross, but you want to exclude some earning codes from the calculation, you just enter the earning codes here. So that can be multiple earnings codes, which are then entered without any spaces in between. You can also set a maximum for your deduction calculation. And then you can set a tax percentage to determine whether the earning type is included in tax calculations. There's also an annual tax limit if your taxable calculation is limited to a particular amount. Okay, so the next section is your company contributions lists. You enter a unique code in column A, description in column B. You set a rate. Here you can pick a gross basis and set a percentage, or you can set the contribution equal or dependent on one of the salary deduction codes. In this case, we've used 1, which refers to 100% equal to UIF. So the UIF company contribution is set equal to the UIF salary contribution. You can also determine whether company contributions need to be calculated on the full fringe benefit, the taxable, or none to exclude. Earning inclusions, you can set to taxable, full value, or none. And then earning exclusion, again, you can enter earning codes, which if some of the codes need to be excluded from your calculation. You can also set a maximum in terms of an earnings cap, which needs to be used for the company contribution calculation. Then the next section is fringe benefits. So you set a code in column A, a description in column B, you set a rate, and you have the option of specifying that value where it uses the value that you enter here, or you can set the basis equal to a salary deduction. So then it's calculated dependent on that salary deduction. You've also got a tax percentage for fringe benefits. Okay, and the next section is departments. So you can set up department codes and set up a cost center per department code. Let's go to the EMP sheet. An employee number needs to be created for each employee. Then you enter the employee name, link the employee to a department. You enter the date employed, that stays the same forever, and a first payment date. This field is very important. So based on the date employed, you would set the first payment period that employee was a part of, and you wouldn't change that ever. If this date is after any pay period, then that employee cannot be included in any pay period before this period. So it's important that these dates are set accurately. If an employee leaves, you can set the date terminated which will also result in the employee being excluded if he's added to the payroll in a period after that. Okay, the rest of these details relate to the employee. We're not going to go through them. You can set current leave days. You can enter that every month, and that is just for inclusion on the pay slip. Each employee needs to be linked to an income tax rebate code and an income tax table. And it's this link that determines which rebates and which income tax rates are used for that particular employee. The medical aid dependents can also be entered there. And then you have the blue is just the indication of a section start for deductions, and then a section start for fringe benefits. And the last column is just the calculated column, which refers to the recon. In terms of the deductions, if you set the deduction, or when you set the deduction rates on the setup sheet, those are global rates that are applied to all employees. So you can then override the global rates for each deduction on this sheet by entering a value specific for that particular employee. So the deduction rates that you enter here override the global rates. Okay, let's go to the payroll sheet. So the payroll sheet is where you actually enter your payroll payments for each month. Okay, so what's important is the template has been designed for a full tax year. So you need to add all the periods in the tax year to this sheet for the calculations to be accurate. So all 12 months. You cannot start in the middle of a tax year. The tax calculations will not be accurate. So you start with, in our case, we've set February as the end of the tax year. So we start in March. Below that, we have April. Then we have May. Then we have June, and so forth. So each pay period below the previous one. When you get to the end of the tax year and you move into a new tax year, you would save this template as a new file, and you would need to update all your rates on the setup sheet and start with a new pay period and the first pay period of the next year. So the columns with yellow column headings require user input. The light blue columns are calculated. So all you need to do is enter a payment run date and select the employee code in column C and then enter your earning amounts. Earning amounts are entered to provide for variable amounts on a monthly basis. So if you have fixed amounts, you can consider using our other basic salary template. Okay, so you enter your payment amounts and then the gross pay is calculated, income tax, salary deductions, all automated. Calculating a net pay, then your company contributions, cost to company, and total deductions. Then there's quite a few columns that are used in tax calculations. You have fringe benefit calculations, and then you have your annual tax calculations, followed by monthly equivalent calculations, which are basically just for earnings and deductions that are paid on a monthly basis. And then you have a split for the different periods. We don't have time to go through everything in detail, but so we're only covering how to enter data in this quick start guide. Okay, so the override section, you can basically override any calculated amounts for deductions or salary, company contributions, or fringe benefits on this sheet. So you enter override date, select the employee number. If it's applicable, you would select income tax or medical aid or deduction or company contribution, depending on what you're overriding. Enter an override value, and then you can set an end date. So what this will basically do is it will use that value and override whatever the template calculates automatically with whatever you enter here. The default is to override until the end of the tax year because everything's calculated on an annual basis. If you only override 1 month, then say you put 0 in for a particular month, then the next month will recover that 0 through the cumulative calculation. So if you want to zero something out for the rest of the tax year, you need to run it up to the end of the tax year. Okay, so the light blue columns are calculated. So you can override any calculations on the sheet. Then you have the payslip sheet. The only user input that's required is selecting the payslip number, and this payslip number is the same number as what you would have in column A on the payroll sheet. Okay. Summary sheet, that has a summary for all employees for monthly payroll amounts. So all your earnings, all your deductions, all your company contributions, up to cost of company and fringe benefits. You could also, there's a user-defined section here where if the salary deduction and company contribution has the same code, you can put it in here and get a total for both. You can also filter this sheet by department or employee number at the top of the sheet. Okay, so your month emp sheet, this is a summary by employee. At the moment, it's set for net pay. So all your employees here. So you can select we've got net pay selected, but you can also select gross pay, income tax, total deductions, total company contributions, deductions and company contributions, or cost to company. Okay, so that's by employee. Then this is by department. The same selections. You can just select whatever you want from here, and it will show each department's total. It also has the cost center there. Okay, the recon sheet is just to reconcile your payroll calculations to what's been paid. So what your payments, so your net pay plus your company contribution and salary deduction amounts are recorded on this sheet. And the recon sheet then basically reconciles your payroll calculations with that payroll sheet, which you can do on an annual or a monthly basis. And you can select any of the 12 months. And that's basically it, a very quick run through the payroll template. If you need further guidance, we strongly recommend that you go through the detailed instructions, which covers every field in every sheet.